I completed the carving of the two goosenecks yesterday, and I mounted them up here to see how it looked. And the one on the right has a screw in it and is in the place where it would be completed. The one on the left is just held in place with a clamp, as you can see. I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see them a little bit closer. They came out pretty well. I'm reasonably happy with them. So the next thing is to make the fretwork or lattice that goes behind those two goosenecks. That's one piece that has the centers cut out there, and it's 3/8 of an inch thick, and that's 32 3/4 inches across the bottom, and it's about 10 inches high. So I wanted the two goosenecks to be in exactly the place they're going to be, so that I can trace their shapes onto the single board, and then of course put the pattern, the lattice pattern, onto that board, cut it out, and have it match exactly. But those goosenecks are attached to that then on the back, so they're glued or screwed. So that's the next step. I've started to work on the lattice or fretwork, and as you can see, it's a single board, which is, that one's 10 1/4, and the two goosenecks are mounted where they should be for completion. And I've drawn a line around the goosenecks onto that board, and now I've got to trace in the lattice shapes, and of course in the center there will be the pillar which supports the cartouche. So I've got to figure that's 3 1/8 inches in the center, but I'll figure that out. So moving along. Well, I've started to work on the scroll work here, and I made a template from the photograph that I had of the left and right sides of the lattice, as you can see here, and then I traced it on the cherry stock. You can see barely see the tracings of the goosenecks that are here. So all of this has to be cut out. So we're going to use the scroll saw for the insides. I'll have to drill some holes into each one of those squares, and then I bought some round blades for the scroll saw, so we're going to see how that works. The outside edges I could cut off on the bandsaw, or use the jigsaw. Either one. I'll leave a little extra, try not to cut right on the line, so that I can clean it up, plus match it to the goosenecks once it's put behind. There's a chamfer on the back of this, so I've got to leave a little room for final fitting. So that's the plan. Well, I've started to work on the lattice now. As you can see, I've roughed out by using the bandsaw the pattern, and leaving myself about a 32nd to a 16th extra. That'll be smoothed over, probably sanded, or I could maybe use a spoke shave on it. But then and I drilled the holes into the pattern so that I can get the saber saw or the scroll saw blades through the holes, and then be able to follow the line as best I can. But there'll be a lot of cleanup. It'll leave, pretty rough lines along the inside there, so that'll all have to be filed. And then once I get it cleaned up, then I've got to carve each one of these where they come across each other so that it looks like it's woven. So one will go under, and then the next one will go over, so in and out, in and out, in and out. That's not real difficult to do, but it'll be tedious when there's that much of it. Well, I'm cutting out the lattice now, and I've tried 3 different ways of doing it. First I used the scroll saw here, and it worked okay. I had spiral blades, so I didn't have to turn the piece as I was using it, but still, for each hole, I had to raise the blade holder there, remove or pull up the blade so that it was clear of the piece, reposition the piece down in the hole, reattach it on the bottom, and then start sawing again, and on to the next hole. So it was very slow going. So then I decided to try it with the saber saw, the Bosch regular Bosch saber saw, and that worked okay. Doing it by hand and cutting out the holes. But I had made this device again years ago to cut steel. So I mounted the saber saw underneath, and the blade just sticks up out of the top here, and I've got it set on the slowest speed. So the saw just goes up and down at a nice slow speed, which allows me to maneuver it. The other reason that I would have kept doing it freehand with the saber saw here, but the problem with it is that the blade cuts on the let me see, what is it, the upstroke, and it leaves it all fuzzy on the edge. Now this way, with it mounted upside down, it cuts on the downstroke, so all the fuzzies are on the back here, which is just fine because that's not seen. So it makes a much cleaner cut on the front, even though they're all going to have to be filed or sanded to have them clean up, but it's better not to. I can see the line much closer. So all I do here, and you can see I made bigger holes too. That gives me a lot more room. They're a 1/2-inch hole to maneuver the piece around, and I'll do a little bit here. So I can turn it around and then start again, you know, like so. And it doesn't take any time at all because I don't have to get the blade out and so forth like I did on the scroll saw. So this seems to work the best so far. Well, I'm half done. You can see here, we'll zoom in. And there you are, half of the lattice is cut out, and we got the other half to do. So that's it for today, and we'll be back to it tomorrow. Well, I've finished sawing out the pattern on the lattice, and now I've got to, let me zoom in here so you can see a little better, although it's backlit. I got to clean up all those saw marks and everything on there, and then carve a basket weave on it, which will be the next step. Well, I'm cleaning up the lattice today. I've got these small rasps here. I think you can see. And just got it clamped to the workbench here in a matter of sighting down. And I tried to keep the saw marks off of the line when I was doing it, so that I had some room here to shave off. And then when they get smooth and to the line, we're done. So I've got Well, these are done so far, so I'm working on this row here, and I've got the whole other side, so it'll take a little while. Well, I wanted to see if the HighChest with the pediments on it and lattice cleared the rafters, and it does, so I put it on the base there, and but I can't get back far enough here so that you can see it all at one time. So I did clean up the lattice here this afternoon, and I wanted to fit it to the goosenecks real well before I trim the outside edges of it. I'll zoom in here a little bit. And it fits pretty well. I've got the two goosenecks screwed into the top molding, and I've clamped the lattice to the back. So it has to be cleaned up along the top edges and inside of the volutes there. So I can run a pencil mark along there and then clean it up and then figure out how I'm going to put it together. I'm either going to screw it to the back or glue it to the back, and I haven't decided yet.